Okay, so in this video, what I want to talk about is a tool that I use to help me make my websites consistent across all pages, and also helps me to speed up my work process by quite a bit. I mean, it shaves hours, literally hours off of every website I build now since I discovered this tool. It's I build my websites with a page builder called Oxygen, and there's an add-on called OxyNinja. And OxyNinja is, it's a design set plus it's a CSS framework. So there's hundreds of CSS classes in there that, here, let me just show you real quick. I have a cheat sheet right here that's outlining, and this is not even outlining probably half of the CS classes. It's just the main ones that you probably use the most often. So here is with columns. So what it is, this is a grid layout. And so you can set up your grid columns for desktop, 2 columns, 4, 5, 6. Just type that class in there and it sets you up. And then it's also responsive. So he wrote all of the classes, or they wrote all, I don't know if it's a he or a they, I don't know if it's a team. Um, but they wrote all the classes out for laptop, tablet, phone wide, and phone. So you can just add, what you do is you just stack the classes. So if for desktop, you put in columns 3. And then maybe laptop, it's okay to stay columns 3, so you don't worry about it. You just skip that, and you skip over tablet if you want to. And then you can just go down to columns M2, so that on a phone, it goes down from whatever you chose your first one to be to that. So it stacks. Um, and then there's just different special columns. So this is just with the grid. I mean, this is probably not the right place to go into how the grid works, but there's just different layout customizations that you can do, and this takes care of all of that for you. Um, when I'm working in Oxygen, I don't really use this when I'm doing with the grid, because most of the time I'm using dynamic content, and it's just easier for me and faster for me to just use the built-in grid system that comes with Oxygen. But this is good to have. I like it, and I use it sometimes. Then all your different text classes right here: text small, medium, large, extra large, color, taglines, sizing and spacing. This one is great because you could just plop these in there and you're consistent all across the board. And you can adjust these. You can make changes to these if you want to. You can lock the classes, so this way no changes are ever made, which comes in handy. I turn that lock on and off all the time. But you can get in there and change it. And what's nice about it is that, instead of saying padding or margin bottom 20 pixels, it says medium or it says large. So if you do go in there and change it, it's still going to be relevant. It's not going to confuse anybody, especially if you hand it off to another developer or designer. And then headings, your H1 through 6, heading color, and then elements: background color, background light, dark, accent, different cards over here, avatars. And again, these are just some of them. And I spoke with the developer over there, or it just emailed with him, and he said he's coming out with a more in-depth cheat sheet at some point. So let me show you real quick how this works in the real world. So let me just move this over here. Okay, so let's refresh this. And now I got my Oxygen edit with Oxygen. And you can combine, obviously you can combine. So I've added some of my own classes that I use across the whole site. And most of it has actually been inspired by these guys at OxyNinja, the way that their naming convention, and instead of saying color red, it's color, primary color, secondary color, things like that, which is very handy, especially with the way I do my starter sites. So, every website, what I'll do is I'll take a clone of this site, and it's the starter for every site that I do. So OxyNinja and all the classes, everything is here as a foundation. Speeds up the start process a lot. So over time, with all of these processes that I'm putting in place, the goal is to try to shave time off of the build process. So, a site that would normally take 8 or 12 hours to build, or 15 hours to build, with some of these processes in place, with all of the classes in place, using the foundation theme like this, or the foundation site like this, I can shave a couple hours off of that. And it's a difference of building, 3 sites a month. I can get it, I can build 4 or 5 sites a month. And so let's see what we got here. So if you want to see where the classes are here, you would come into selectors. and you'll see all of them. So we have uncategorized, and that's just the default Oxygen's naming right there. And all these are all the classes that I've built, that I put in here. Not many, but just a few. So we got card, icon, heading, text, card large, card small, and then flex grow. These are settings that I use quite a bit. So I can just dump these in there. I don't have to go in and worry about the settings. It's just done once, forget it. I can reuse it. Here are the OxyNinja classes right here. It's called core. Let me move this picture out of the way. So you'll know that it's OxyNinja because everything has a C in front of it. So it's C dash margin bottom, everything. So you know that that's what that is. So let's see how this is in action. Let's go to structure. And so here is one of my, this is a grid that I set up here. So you'll see I'm not using OxyNinja grid. I'm using the built-in Oxygen grid right here. So that's selected right there. Get this on the other side. And excuse me. So I have it set up for 3 columns, and the width is auto, and then the gap in between each one of these cards is set at 40 pixels, and it's set to stretch, vertical and horizontal. Okay. So if I was to add another, if I was going to take one of these cards and just duplicate it, it just falls into place. And if I was to duplicate it again, it'll fall underneath, and again and again. So that's how the grid works. So we can get rid of these, get rid of that one and that one, and let's just stick here. All right. So, okay. So I've set a class. This is one of the classes that I set here called card, and I'll explain why I did that. So you notice the spacing in between each of these elements here. So these 2 elements, the logo or this icon and the title, these are grouped into one div right here. But everything else in here, this text box and this button, are just inside of this card div right here. And the way I have the cards set up, it's something I learned from somebody else has a YouTube channel called Digital Ambition. And he taught me about, or he teaches about, this thing called owl spacing. So what you do is you set a class to the card itself, to the wrapped div. And what it does is it creates consistent spacing throughout. So at this point, my card, let's go into my style sheets over here. And let's shut this one right here. So card, so this is the class right here. Let me get this a little bit darker. Okay, so card, and then you get this little symbol, asterisk, plus sign, asterisk, and then you do margin top to rem. So what that is giving me 20 pixels of margin on the top of each one of the elements in the card, but only to elements that don't have a sibling above it. And this is why that's significant. This is why that works right here. So this card right here, I have padding of 2 Vmax all around everything right here. Now, if this was to add a margin to the top of everything, I would have extra padding above this element right here, above this div right here, but I don't, because of the way this style sheet is set up, or the way this class is set up. This star plus this star only applies the padding to an element that does not have a sibling above it. And since this does not have a sibling above it, it's not adding the margin above this. It's adding the margin above this, and it's adding the margin above this. And the reason why I stuck the icon and this title inside here was so that I can fix the spacing in between this, because I don't want 20 pixels of margin between my icon and this heading right here. It just wouldn't look right. But if I was to add another element underneath here, let's go into my structure, let's get into my card, and let's add another icon. And there it goes. So you have same spacing between here, here, and here. And I don't have to go in and set any kind of, and this is where it speeds it up. And this is, these little things over time add up. So at the end of this build, if I use systems like this, I save a lot of time. And when I used to be a carpenter, we used to work, and somebody, if you're laying out studs across a wall, we were doing finished basements, And they'd be like, well, what's a quarter of an inch? Don't worry about it. Just nail it in. Well, a quarter of an inch here and here, no big deal. But a quarter of an inch multiplied by, a 20-foot wall, well, you do the math. I can't do that math in my head, but it'll make a difference. So using that same principle is I'm applying it to my website builds right here. So if I add another element in here, again, same spacing. And if I just keep adding elements, spacing is going to be consistent. I never have to worry about any of that stuff. And I don't have to go in there and add classes to each one of these individual elements. It's just done. So that was really magic when I learned about that. So I use it on everything right now. So, when I set up my site, again, this is my starter site, so it's going to be there on every site I build. So that class is in there. So let's see what else I can show you real quick here. So here's my card, here's my div, and this is my wrapper. And I like to name all of these things. So, quick glance, I'll come in here and I'll call this grid wrapper, like that. So now I know that that's where my grid class is applied to. Okay, and I can see that highlighted over here. So if I was to come in here, and let's say I was going to add another div below this. Oh, did I add a section? Yep, I added a section. Let's not do that. Let's go back. Okay, so come in here, and here, and I'm going to just add a div. Okay, so here's my div, and let's give it a width of 100% just to give me some space there. Now let's see what I got going on here. So here's my grid wrapper. I got space here, so I want to see where that's coming from. So I have C margin bottom large. Okay, so if I was to take that off, I lose that spacing. Okay. And another thing about using the OxyNinja classes is that I don't need to memorize every class. I don't need to know what the name of every class is. All I need to know is what I want to do. Am I adding padding? Am I adding margin? So if I want to add margin, if I just start typing in the word margin, it's going to pull up all of my classes that have the word margin in it. So now I can come in here and I can see what's going on. So we got margin right, margin bottom. So let's do margin bottom XL. Let's see what that looks like. Gives me that much space. I don't even know how much space that is in between there, but if you want to check it out, you can come in here and you can see. And they're using the clamp calculation. So we got 80 as the max, and let's see what it is, and 32 on the smaller screens. So we'll go into clamp. I think I talked about clamp in another video, but I can talk about it again. Basically what it is just it's a calculation. So what you're doing is you're building in, and this is what's so beautiful about this OxyNinja stuff, you're building in responsive design in one shot. You don't have to go. So, normally what you would have to do if you don't use something like clamp, you would have to come through here and go, okay, so now I'm on screens that are 1280 and smaller. Let me set my margin. Okay, so now you come over here. Now I'm at 991 and smaller. Let me set my margins here. So you got to go through all of this, and it just adds time. It's adding a quarter of an inch to every step. And excuse me. So this, you don't have to worry about it. And this speeds up the design. This speeds everything up. Okay, so let's see what else you can add in here. So we can do background. I don't know. I don't remember what the background classes are called, but I don't need to know. All I got to do is put in BG. And now here are all my background classes. Background light, accent, light alternate, dark. I mean, it's just on and on and on and on and on. And again, they're not specifying a color. So I can go in there and I can change that. I can change the accent color. I can change the background color, the dark color, the dark alt color. I can change all of these things, and it's not going to confuse the next designer, or the next developer that goes in there that might, be taking over the site when I'm done with it. So, so I like that a lot about this. So you can add that, and then we can add a shadow. I don't know what the shadow classes are called. I don't need to know. I just type in SH. Here it is. I can add a shadow to my box right there. And another beautiful thing about this is that in the beginning, when I first started working with Oxygen and adding all of these classes, I would add a class and I'd move on. I'd add the class somewhere else. And then I would start making adjustments, but I'd be making adjustments in that class, and it would take effect across the whole site. So for example, if I put in a background color on a class, and then all of a sudden I want to adjust the margin or the padding or something like that, if I'm in that class, it's going to affect the entire site. So I had some interesting moments where I had to go back and find where I put those classes and fix it. This takes care of that for you in the way that you can lock your classes. So you see how it just disappeared when I click this lock button? If it's unchecked, it's gray like this, I can select my classes, I can make adjustments. But if I check it, it turns blue. Now I'm on the ID. You can't lock out the ID, but that's fine. IDs only affect that one element. Every ID is completely unique, so it doesn't matter what you do to an ID. It's only going to affect that specific element. Okay, but you see, I can't come in here and select these now, so I'll never be able to change these. I'll never be able to accidentally change these things, so it protects me from myself. But anyway, I can just go in there and click that lock off, and I got it. And now I can come back in here. If I want to get rid of background dark, gone. If I want to put a different background in there, I can do background. Let's pick one, light, alt, so it gives me this white color. And I can come in here and I can see it. I can see what's in there. So we got core, background, light, alternative, and that's what that color is right there. It looks like it might even have a little bit of transparency to it. And you want to do a border? Start typing in border. Let's see. So B, I'm going to get buttons first, but let's go to BO, and there we go. Border light. Okay, so it gives me a slight border line around the whole box. Let's see. So I clicked up on card. So let's go back to this. I can border light. I can get rid of border light. I can come in here and do BOR border dark. Now I got a dark line around it. And if I want to see what exactly is going on, I can come in here. I see the background is giving me that color right there. Let's see, border dark, background light. Okay, so here's border dark. I can come back here, see what my border is. For some reason, it doesn't show you what the border is right here. I don't really know why. I can't come in here and edit it, but I know there's a border there. Because you come in here and you see that little green dot. So if I wanted to make adjustments to this border, I probably wouldn't do it in the class anyway. If I needed a new border, I would probably just create a brand new class and leave all of the OxyNinja classes alone. So I keep that locked. And if you do, great thing is that if you do go in there and you do start changing some of the OxyNinja classes and you realize you messed up, you can go in there and you can reset it. There's a way to reset all the classes back to the default settings that were in there. All right, so that is OxyNinja in a nutshell. And the key takeaway on this is that OxyNinja is going to save a lot of development time. And that's why I use it. And that's why I will continue to use it. I can get rid of this down here. And again, this is my starter site. So if I was getting a new project to work on, I would just clone this and start from here. All right, well, thank you very much, and talk to you again soon.